She was 8 months pregnant, standing in the snow on Christmas Eve. Her husband had just thrown her out of their home for his mistress. He called her a nobody, said she was boring, said she was worthless. He thought she had nothing. No money, no power, no family to protect her. He thought he had won, but Derek Weston made one fatal mistake. He never Googled his wife, because Charlotte was not a nobody. She was the sole heir to a $4 billion empire. And in exactly 7 minutes, a private helicopter would land on his perfect lawn. Her brother would step out, and Derek would realize he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. This is the story of a man who thought he could destroy his pregnant wife on Christmas Eve, and the woman who destroyed him instead. What happens next will shock you. Stay with me until the end, because the final twist, you will never see it coming. Get Out. 2 words. 8 years of marriage, 32 weeks pregnant, Christmas Eve. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 8 times. Each chime echoed through the marble foyer like a funeral bell. Outside, snow fell in thick white curtains. The temperature had dropped to 20 degrees an hour ago. The weatherman had called it the coldest Christmas Eve in 15 years. Charlotte Weston stood frozen in the middle of her own home. Her hand rested on her swollen belly. The baby kicked. Once. Twice. As if sensing something was terribly wrong. Her husband Derek blocked the staircase. His arms were crossed over his chest. His face was a mask she did not recognize. Cold. Distant. Like a stranger wearing her husband's skin. Derek. Her voice came out as a whisper. What did you say? I said, get out. I want you gone tonight. Charlotte blinked. Surely she had misheard. Surely this was some kind of joke. A terrible, cruel joke that he would take back any second now. But Derek did not smile, did not laugh, did not say he was kidding. He just stood there, waiting. I do not understand, Charlotte said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, distant, disconnected, like someone else was speaking through her mouth. What is happening right now? What did I do? You did not do anything. That is the problem. Derek's voice was flat, emotionless. You have become boring, Charlotte. Predictable. I need something more. Something more. The words hung in the air between them, heavy and sharp. Then Charlotte heard it, a sound that would haunt her dreams for months to come. Footsteps on the stairs behind Derek, the soft pad of bare feet on hardwood. A woman's footsteps. Charlotte looked up. Vanessa Holt descended the staircase. She moved slowly, deliberately, like a queen surveying her new kingdom. She wore Charlotte's silk robe, the pale blue one with the embroidered cherry blossoms along the hem, the one Derek had given Charlotte for their 5th anniversary. The one Charlotte had worn on lazy Sunday mornings while Derek made pancakes and they talked about their future. But that was not what made Charlotte's blood turn to ice. Around Vanessa's neck hung a strand of pearls. Charlotte recognized them immediately. She would have recognized them anywhere. Her grandmother's pearls. The ones Eleanor Ashford had placed around Charlotte's neck on her wedding day. The ones that had belonged to Charlotte's great-grandmother. The ones that were worth more than most people's houses. Baby, just let her call someone, Vanessa said. She reached the bottom of the stairs. Her hand found Derek's arm. The touch was possessive, familiar, practiced. I do not want this to be ugly. Charlotte's hand pressed harder against her belly. The baby kicked again, harder this time, more urgent. How long? The words came out as a whisper. Charlotte was surprised she could speak at all. Her throat felt like it was filled with broken glass. Derek shrugged. Actually shrugged. Like she had asked him about the weather. Like she had asked him what he wanted for dinner. Does it matter? How long, Derek? He sighed. The sound was impatient, annoyed, like she was wasting his time with irrelevant questions. 18 months, maybe longer. I stopped keeping track after a while. 18 months. Charlotte did the math. Her mind worked slowly, like gears grinding through mud. 18 months meant it started before she got pregnant. Before those romantic weekends when Derek suddenly wanted to try for a baby. Before the positive pregnancy test and his performance of joy. Before he had held her in his arms and told her this was the happiest day of his life. All of it was a lie. Every kiss, every touch, every whispered promise in the dark. Lies. All lies. She looked at her suitcase sitting by the front door. Brown leather, the one she had gotten for their honeymoon in Italy. It was packed, zipped closed, ready to go. He had done this while she was at her doctor's appointment, while Dr. Sloan was checking on the baby, while Charlotte was looking at ultrasound images and crying happy tears because her daughter was healthy and strong. Derek had been here, packing her things, planning this moment. "You planned this," Charlotte said. Her voice was steadier now. Something was hardening inside her. Some protective wall was going up. "You waited until Christmas Eve. You knew my grandmother is in Switzerland for the holidays. You knew my brother Theodore is in Tokyo on business. You knew I would have nowhere to go." Derek smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who had just won a game, a man who had outmaneuvered his opponent. "You were always smarter than you let on, Charlotte. Yes, I planned it. I planned every detail. And now I need you to leave. You are ruining my Christmas." Ruining his Christmas. Charlotte almost laughed. She was standing in her own foyer, 8 months pregnant, being thrown out into a snowstorm, and she was ruining his Christmas. Vanessa pressed closer to Derek. Her body language was triumphant, possessive. She had won, and she wanted Charlotte to know it. "Derek, maybe we should just let her stay in the guest house until the storm passes," Vanessa said. Her voice was sweet, saccharine, dripping with false concern. "I mean, she is pregnant. It seems cruel to just throw her out." "No." Derek's voice was sharp, final. "She leaves tonight. That was the deal." Charlotte caught something in those words. That was the deal. What deal? With whom? But her mind could not focus. The baby was kicking frantically now. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. The cold from the open front door seeped into her bones, into her blood, into her soul. She had to think. She had to be smart. She had to figure out what to do next. But all she could see was Vanessa in her robe. Vanessa wearing her grandmother's pearls. Vanessa standing in the spot where Charlotte had stood for 8 years. In the home Charlotte had decorated. In the life Charlotte had built. "My things," Charlotte said. Her voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. "My clothes, my mother's jewelry, my photographs, my—" "I packed what you need," Derek said. He nodded toward the suitcase. "The rest stays. This is still my house, my furniture, my life. Our house, we bought it together. We decorated it together. We built a life here together. With my money." Derek's voice was cold, cutting. "You work at a nonprofit, Charlotte. Let us be honest about who paid for what around here. Your little charity salary would not even cover the property taxes." The cruelty of it took her breath away. She had worked at that nonprofit by choice. She had hidden her family's wealth. She had driven a Honda instead of a Mercedes. She had worn clothes from regular stores instead of designer boutiques, because she wanted Derek to love her for herself, not for her name, not for her money, not for the Ashford legacy that stretched back 5 generations. She had wanted to be just Charlotte, a woman who worked hard and loved deeply and believed in the goodness of people. And now Derek was using that choice against her, weaponizing her humility, turning her sacrifice into evidence of her worthlessness. Charlotte pulled out her phone. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped it. She scrolled through her contacts with numb fingers. Grandmother Eleanor, in Switzerland. 11 at night there, probably asleep. Brother Theodore, in Tokyo, already tomorrow morning there. In meetings all day. Best friend Maggie, working a double shift at the hospital, delivering other people's babies while Charlotte's world fell apart. She checked her messages. Nothing new. She refreshed the screen. Pulled down with her thumb. Watched the little spinning wheel. Still nothing. The screen stayed dark, empty, mocking her. She was completely alone. "Who would I call, Derek?" Her voice cracked on his name. "It is Christmas Eve. Everyone I love is thousands of miles away. My grandmother is across an ocean. My brother is on the other side of the world. My best friend is saving lives at the hospital." She looked at him. This man she had loved. This man she had married. This man whose child grew inside her, kicking and squirming, sensing its mother's distress. "You made sure of that, did you not? You made sure I had no one to turn to, no one to help me, no one to witness what you are doing right now." Derek glanced at his watch. Actual gold, Rolex, a gift from Charlotte last Christmas. She had saved for months to buy it for him, had thought it would make him happy. "You have 5 minutes," he said. "Pack whatever else you want from that suitcase. Then get out. If you are not gone by 8:15, I am calling the police to remove you from my property." "Your property?" "My name is on the deed, Charlotte. You wanted everything in my name, remember? Said it was more romantic that way. Said you trusted me completely." She had said that, she remembered now. They had been sitting with the real estate lawyer 3 years ago, signing papers for this house. Derek had suggested putting everything in both their names. Charlotte had said no, had insisted his name alone was fine, because she trusted him, because she loved him, because she never imagined she would need legal protection from the man who held her heart. God, she had been stupid. Charlotte stared at Derek, really looked at him, tried to see past the handsome face and the charming smile to the creature underneath. She did not recognize him anymore. Maybe she never had. Maybe the man she fell in love with had never existed at all. She bent down slowly. Her pregnant belly made everything awkward. Picked up her suitcase. It was heavy. Too heavy for a woman 8 months pregnant with swollen ankles and an aching back. But she would not ask for help. Not from him. Never from him again. She straightened her spine, lifted her chin, met his eyes one last time. "You will regret this, Derek." Her voice was steady now. The wall inside her had finished forming, hard and cold and protective. "Not because of anything I will do, not because of revenge or retaliation, but because you have no idea who you just threw away." Derek laughed. The sound echoed through the marble foyer, bounced off the expensive walls and the custom chandelier and all the beautiful things Charlotte had chosen for this house. "Right, the girl who worked at the nonprofit when I met her, the girl who drives a 10-year-old Honda, the girl whose grandmother lives in a modest cottage somewhere on the coast." He leaned close. His breath smelled like the whiskey he had been drinking. Expensive whiskey from the bottle Charlotte had bought for their anniversary. "I know exactly who you are, Charlotte. You are nobody. You have always been nobody. And now you are going to disappear, just like you should have years ago." Charlotte said nothing. She picked up her suitcase. She walked to the open door. She stepped out into the snow. The cold hit her like a physical blow. The wind cut through her cashmere sweater like it was tissue paper. Snow immediately began soaking through her ballet flats. She did not look back. The door slammed behind her. The sound was final, absolute, the sound of a life ending. Charlotte stood on the front porch for a moment, just breathing, just existing, just trying to understand what had just happened. Then she started walking, down the steps, one at a time, careful not to slip on the ice. A fall could hurt the baby. She had to protect the baby. That was all that mattered now. That was all that. The driveway stretched before her, 300 feet of cobblestone leading to the front gate. It was covered in snow now, white and pristine and beautiful. Under other circumstances, Charlotte would have thought it was magical, a winter wonderland, a Christmas postcard. Now it looked like a frozen desert, an endless expanse of cold and white and nothing. She passed the garden where they were married. 3 years ago, June. The roses had been in full bloom. Derek had cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. Real tears, or so she had thought. The roses were dormant now, buried under snow, sleeping until spring. Charlotte wondered if they knew, if plants could sense betrayal, if they were ashamed to have witnessed vows that meant nothing. She passed the greenhouse where she told Derek about the pregnancy, where he had picked her up and spun her around, where he had pressed his hand to her still flat belly and promised to be the best father in the world. More lies, more performance, more careful manipulation. Each step was a memory. Each memory was now poison. The gate loomed ahead, black iron against white snow. Charlotte reached it and stopped. Her feet were completely numb now. She could not feel her toes at all. Her fingers were stiff with cold. The baby had gone quiet inside her. Was that bad? She did not know. She needed to get warm. She needed to think. Charlotte looked back at the house one last time. The lights glowed in the windows, warm and golden and inviting. The Christmas tree was visible through the living room window, the one Charlotte had decorated 3 weeks ago, the one with the hand-blown ornaments she had collected from their travels. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, each one a memory. In the upstairs window, she saw movement. Derek's silhouette. Then another silhouette joined his. Vanessa. They were not even waiting until Charlotte was off the property. Something broke inside Charlotte then. Something she had been holding together with hope and denial, and sheer force of will for a very long time. It cracked, shattered, fell away, and in its place something new began to form. She did not know yet what it was, could not name it, could not understand it, but she knew it was important, knew it would save her. Charlotte turned away from the house, from the life she had built, from the man she had loved. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number she had not called in 3 years. It rang once. The sound was distant, faint, like it was traveling across an ocean. It rang twice. Charlotte's heart pounded in her chest. 3 times, she was about to give up, about to accept that she was truly alone. Then, click. Charlotte, her grandmother's voice, sharp, alert, completely awake despite the late hour in Switzerland. "Is that you?" "Grandmother." Charlotte's voice broke on the word. All the walls she had built came crashing down. "Grandmother, it is Charlotte. I need to come home." Silence on the other end, just for a moment, just long enough for Charlotte to feel the full weight of her terror. Then Eleanor Ashford spoke again. "Where are you?" "Connecticut. Derek's house. The estate." Charlotte was crying now. She could not stop. "He threw me out. I am standing in the snow. I am 8 months pregnant, and I have nowhere to go. I have no one. I have nothing. Stop!" Eleanor's voice cut through Charlotte's panic like a blade, sharp and commanding and absolutely certain. "Stop crying. Take a breath. Are you injured?" Charlotte forced herself to breathe, in, out, in, out. "No, I am not injured, but I am so cold. And the baby—" "Listen to me very carefully, Charlotte. Stay exactly where you are. Do not move. Do not speak to anyone. Do not go back inside that house no matter what happens. Help is coming." "Grandmother, I do not understand. You are in Switzerland. How can you possibly, stay where you are? Do not move. Do not." 7 minutes. The call ended. Charlotte stared at her phone. The screen glowed in the darkness. Snowflakes landed on it and melted instantly. 7 minutes. What could possibly happen in 7 minutes? She pulled her suitcase closer, wrapped her arms around herself, tried to conserve whatever body heat she had left. The cold was unbearable now. It had seeped through her clothes, through her skin, into her bones. Her teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue. Tasted blood. She thought about her father, James Ashford, dead when she was 12 years old. A heart attack. Sudden and cruel and completely unexpected. He had been the one who held her when she cried. The one who told her she could be anything she wanted. The one who promised to always protect her. What would he think of her now? Standing in the snow, pregnant, abandoned, discarded like garbage. He would be furious. Not at her, at Derek, at the world that let this happen. At himself for not being there to prevent it. Charlotte closed her eyes. She could almost hear his voice, almost feel his arms around her. "Hold on, sweetheart. Just hold on. Help is coming." 4 minutes passed, then 5. The snow fell harder. The wind picked up. Charlotte's whole body shook with cold. Then she heard it, distant at first, so faint she thought she might be imagining it. A rhythmic sound, a throbbing, getting closer. She looked up at the sky, saw nothing but darkness and snow. But the sound grew louder, closer, more distinct. Helicopter blades. Charlotte squinted into the darkness, tried to see through the curtain of falling snow. Lights appeared, red and white and blinking. Getting closer, getting lower. Then headlights on the road. 3 sets, approaching fast. Charlotte watched in disbelief as 3 black SUVs turned onto the private road that led to Derek's estate. They stopped at the gate. Doors opened. Men in dark suits stepped out. But Charlotte barely noticed them, because behind the SUVs, the helicopter was descending, Lower and lower. Its searchlight cut through the snow like a blade. The roar of its engines drowned out everything else. It passed over the gate, over Charlotte's head. She could feel the wind from its blades, could smell the fuel. It touched down on Derek's perfectly manicured front lawn. The snow swirled up in a white tornado. The grass underneath was probably destroyed. Charlotte found that she did not care at all. The helicopter door opened. Light spilled out into the darkness. A figure emerged, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with purpose and controlled fury. Theodore Ashford, her brother, in a custom suit that probably cost more than Derek's car. His face was carved from granite. Behind him, Charlotte caught a glimpse of something on the helicopter's side, illuminated by the interior lights. A crest, a symbol, the Ashford family crest, a shield with a phoenix rising from flames. Underneath, the family motto in Latin, "From ashes, we rise." Charlotte had not seen that crest displayed publicly in 20 years. Not since her grandmother decided the family should maintain a lower profile. Not since they stopped appearing in society pages and started operating from the shadows. Theodore strode toward her. He stripped off his overcoat as he walked. By the time he reached her, he was wrapping it around her shoulders. Warmth. Finally warmth. Charlotte almost sobbed with relief. "Charlotte!" Theodore's voice was controlled, professional, but she could hear the fury simmering underneath, the rage he was barely containing. "Are you hurt? Is the baby? We are fine. We are both fine." She was crying again. When had she started? She could not remember. "Theodore, what are you doing here? You were supposed to be in Tokyo. You were supposed to be in meetings all day." "I was on my way home for Christmas. I was over Maine when grandmother called." He gripped her shoulders, looked into her eyes, searched for injuries, for damage, for anything wrong. "She tracked my flight, rerouted the helicopter. I was closer than anyone else." "Grandmother did this?" "Grandmother does everything." Theodore almost smiled, almost. "Now tell me what happened. Tell me everything." Before Charlotte could answer, a new voice cut through the noise of the helicopter. "What the hell is going on here?" Charlotte turned. Derek Weston was running across the lawn, still in his expensive sweater and tailored pants, still wearing the watch Charlotte had given him. Vanessa trailed behind him, now wrapped in a coat over Charlotte's robe. Derek stopped 10 feet from the helicopter. His face was white, not from cold, from shock, from the sudden realization that something had gone very, very wrong with his carefully laid plans. "Who are you?" he demanded. His voice cracked slightly. "What is this? That helicopter is on my property. I am calling the police. I am—" "Calling the police?" Theodore's voice was soft, dangerous. The voice of a man who destroyed empires for a living. "By all means, call them. I am sure they would be very interested in hearing how you threw your pregnant wife into a snowstorm on Christmas Eve." "That is, she was leaving voluntarily. She chose to leave. This is my house, and I have every right to—" "Your house?" Theodore stepped toward Derek, slowly, deliberately, like a predator approaching prey. "I do not think so." "That is my wife you are talking to." Derek tried to puff up, tried to assert dominance. It was almost pathetic. "I demand to know who you are and what you are doing on my property." Theodore smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a shark. "Your wife? She will not be your wife for much longer." He gestured toward Charlotte. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am Theodore Ashford, and this is my sister, Charlotte Elizabeth Ashford, whose great-grandmother built the building your pathetic little fund occupies, whose grandmother owns controlling interests in 4 companies you are currently begging to invest in your fund, whose family has been on the Fortune 500 list for longer than your family has been in this country." Derek's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. "Ashford?" The word finally emerged as a whisper, choked and strangled. That is not possible. Charlotte works at a nonprofit. She drives a Honda. Her grandmother lives in a cottage. She told me—" "She told you her grandmother lives in a cottage?" Theodore's smile widened. "She does. The Ashford Cottage. Built in 1892, 12,000 square feet. 30 acres of oceanfront property. Staff of 23. Currently valued at approximately $47 million. He stepped even closer to Derek, close enough to touch. You really should have done your research, Derek. You really should have Googled your wife before you threw her into the snow. Derek's face went through a transformation. Shock to disbelief to calculation to something that looked almost like hope. Charlotte, his voice changed completely. Soft now, pleading, desperate. Charlotte, sweetheart, I do not know what came over me. It was a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. Please let us go inside and talk about this. I am sure we can work something out. Charlotte stared at him. This man who had thrown her out 10 minutes ago. This man who had called her boring. This man who had told her she was nobody. Now that he knew who she really was, suddenly he wanted to talk. Work something out. Her voice was ice. You threw me into a snowstorm on Christmas Eve, 8 months pregnant. You had your mistress waiting in my bedroom, wearing my grandmother's pearls, pearls that have been in my family for 4 generations. I can explain. No. The word was absolute, final. You cannot explain because there is no explanation. There is only who you are, and I finally see it. She turned and walked toward the helicopter. Theodore's coat was warm around her shoulders. The baby kicked. Strong and steady, a reminder that she was not alone, would never be alone again. Charlotte! Derek lunged forward. Charlotte, wait. You do not understand. I love you. I have always loved you. This was all a misunderstanding. Theodore stepped between them, blocked Derek's path. If this is how you love someone, Mr. Weston, I would hate to see how you treat your enemies. His voice was pleasant, almost conversational, but his eyes were anything but. Stay away from my sister. Stay away from her child. If you contact her, if you come near her, if you so much as think about her too loudly, you will discover exactly what the Ashford family does to people who hurt their own. He turned and followed Charlotte to the helicopter. Charlotte climbed inside. The interior was warm, heated leather seats, soft lighting, a blanket already waiting for her. Theodore climbed in beside her. The door began to close. Through the narrowing gap, Charlotte watched Derek Weston standing on his destroyed lawn. Vanessa was already pulling away from him, already distancing herself, already calculating her exit strategy. Derek's face was a mask of desperation, of fear, of dawning horror. You will be hearing from our attorneys, Theodore said. The door closed. The helicopter lifted off. Charlotte watched through the window as the estate grew smaller below. The house, the garden, the man who had tried to destroy her. They shrank and shrank until they were just specks of light in the darkness. Then they were gone. Charlotte put her hand on her belly. The baby kicked. It is okay, little one, she whispered. Mommy made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But we are going to fix it. I promise you. We are going to fix everything. Theodore handed her a cashmere blanket. His face was tight with controlled anger. Grandmother is furious, he said. With me? With herself. She never trusted him. She wanted to investigate before you got married, but you asked her not to. You said you wanted him to love you for yourself. I did say that. Charlotte wrapped the blanket around herself. I thought I was being romantic. Turns out I was just being naive. You were being hopeful. There is a difference. Theodore's voice softened. What matters now is that you are safe, you are out, and Derek Weston is about to discover what happens when you cross the wrong family. Charlotte looked at her reflection in the helicopter window. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her hair was wet and stringy with melted snow. Her eyes were red from crying, but something had changed in those eyes. Something was different. The softness was gone. The naivety was gone. The blind faith was gone. In their place was something new, something harder, something stronger. She did not know yet what that hardness would become, did not know what kind of woman would emerge from this wreckage. But she knew one thing for certain. Derek Weston had made the biggest mistake of his life, and he was about to pay for it. The helicopter flew through the night for 23 minutes. Charlotte spent most of the flight in silence. She stared out the window at the darkness below. Occasional lights dotted the landscape. Houses where families were celebrating Christmas Eve. People opening presents. drinking eggnog, singing carols. Normal people living normal lives. Charlotte wondered what that felt like. To be normal. To have a normal Christmas with a normal husband in a normal house. She had tried so hard to be normal, had hidden her family's wealth, had pretended to be just another woman working at just another job, had married a man she thought loved her for herself, and look where normal had gotten her. Theodore was on the phone. His voice was low and clipped. All business despite the late hour, despite the crisis. Charlotte caught fragments of his conversation. Full investigation. Tonight, I want everything on Derek Weston, financial records, business history, personal history, criminal history. I want to know what he ate for breakfast when he was 12 years old. A pause. I do not care what time it is. I do not care that it is Christmas Eve. Pay them triple. Pay them quadruple. Just get it done. Another pause. Yes, she is safe. She is with me. We are en route to the estate. He ended the call, looked at Charlotte. Grandmother has people working on it already. By morning, we will know everything there is to know about Derek Weston. Everything? Everything. His fund, his finances, his mistresses, his secrets. Theodore's jaw tightened. If he has so much as an unpaid parking ticket, we will find it. Charlotte nodded. She should feel something, she thought. Satisfaction, anticipation, something. But all she felt was numb. The baby, she said suddenly. I have not felt her move in a while. Theodore's expression shifted. Concern replaced anger. Dr. Sloan is meeting us at the estate. She drove down from Boston as soon as grandmother called. Dr. Sloan came? On Christmas Eve? She canceled her own family's celebration to be there for you. Theodore reached over and squeezed Charlotte's hand. You have more people who love you than you realize, Charlie. You have always had them. You just forgot for a while. Charlotte felt the tears threatening again. She blinked them back. I pushed everyone away for him. I gave up everything for him. You did not give up anything. You made choices, and now you are making different choices. Theodore's voice was firm. Do not waste energy on regret. Save it for what comes next. What does come next? Whatever you want. You are an Ashford. You can do anything. Be anything. Destroy anyone who tries to hurt you. He smiled slightly. But first, let us get you home. Let us make sure you and that baby are healthy. The rest can wait until morning. The helicopter began its descent. Charlotte looked out the window and saw lights appearing below. The Ashford estate, her childhood home. The cottage, her grandmother called it, a joke that dated back over a century when the original Eleanor Ashford built it as a summer retreat. The cottage had 12,000 square feet of living space, 30 acres of oceanfront property, gardens designed by Frederick Law Olmsted himself, a staff that had served the family for generations, some cottage. The helicopter touched down on the rear lawn. Charlotte could see the main house through the swirling snow from the rotor wash. Every window blazed with light, warm, welcoming, home. Staff was already waiting. Charlotte recognized some of the faces, people who had known her since childhood, people who had watched her grow up, leave for college, fall in love, get married, people who had probably known Derek was wrong for her all along, who had probably watched her make the biggest mistake of her life and said nothing because she had asked them not to interfere. Theodore helped her out of the helicopter. The wind off the ocean was cold, but nothing like the brutal freeze of Derek's driveway. Here, the cold smelled like salt and pine and home. Mrs. Charlotte, that was Martha, the head housekeeper. She had worked at the estate for 40 years, had helped raise Charlotte after her mother died. Oh, my dear girl, look at you. Come inside. Come inside right now. You are frozen solid. Hands guided her toward the house. A warm coat was placed around her shoulders. Someone took her suitcase. Someone else pressed a cup of hot tea into her hands. And then she was inside. The familiar foyer, the smell of wood polish and fresh flowers. The portrait of her great-great-grandmother hanging above the fireplace. Charlotte had not been here in over a year. Derek had always found excuses not to visit. Too busy with work. Too tired from traveling. to something. She understood now. He had been keeping her away from her family, keeping her isolated, keeping her under his control. But that was over now. She was home. And in the doorway to the main parlor stood Eleanor Ashford, 70 years old, silver hair pulled back in an elegant chignon, back straight as a steel beam. She wore a simple black dress and a single strand of pearls. Her own pearls, not the ones Vanessa had stolen. Her face revealed nothing. No emotion, no reaction. Just those sharp blue eyes taking in everything, missing nothing. Charlotte walked toward her grandmother. Her legs felt weak. Her whole body trembled with exhaustion and cold and delayed shock. She stopped 2 feet away, did not know what to say, did not know where to begin. Eleanor said nothing either. She simply opened her arms. Charlotte fell into them. For the first time since Derek spoke those 2 devastating words, she let herself truly break. The sobs came hard and violent. Her whole body shook with them. 8 years of hopes and dreams and love poured out of her in a flood of grief. Eleanor held her tight, said nothing, just held her. The staff retreated silently. Theodore disappeared somewhere. The tea grew cold in Charlotte's abandoned cup. Finally, the sobs subsided. Charlotte pulled back. Her face was swollen. Her eyes were raw. She probably looked terrible. She did not care. "I am sorry," she managed. Her voice was hoarse from crying. "Grandmother, I am so sorry." "Hush!" Eleanor's voice was soft, gentle, a tone she rarely used. "You have nothing to apologize for. I should have listened to you. You told me not to marry him. You told me something was wrong. You told me—" "I told you to follow your heart." Eleanor cupped Charlotte's face in her hands. Her palms were warm, dry, steady. "You did. That is not weakness. That is courage. Some courage. Look where it got me. It got you here, home, where you belong." Eleanor's eyes were fierce now, sharp and protective. "And it taught you something you needed to learn, about that man, about yourself, about what truly matters." What truly matters? Family, strength, the knowledge that you can survive anything. Eleanor released Charlotte's face. "Step back. Now come, sit by the fire, get warm. Dr. Sloan is waiting to examine you." "Grandmother, I do not—" "This is not a discussion, Charlotte. You are 8 months pregnant. You have been through a terrible trauma. You will let the doctor examine you, and you will rest, and tomorrow we will discuss what happens next." Eleanor's voice brooked no argument. "Tonight you are safe. That is all that matters." Charlotte nodded. She was too exhausted to argue, too depleted to do anything except follow her grandmother's instructions. She let herself be led to the parlor, let herself be seated in front of a roaring fire. Let Dr. Rebecca Sloan examine her with warm hands and worried eyes. "The baby is fine," Dr. Sloan said finally. "Strong heartbeat, good movement, a little stressed from the cold exposure, but nothing serious." She looked at Charlotte with those kind, professional eyes. "You, on the other hand, need rest, fluids, warmth, and absolutely no stress for the next few days." "No stress," Charlotte laughed bitterly. "My husband just threw me out on Christmas Eve. I am 8 months pregnant with nowhere to live. How exactly am I supposed to avoid stress? By letting the people who love you handle things for a while." Dr. Sloan squeezed her hand. "You do not have to carry this alone, Charlotte. You never did." Later that night, Charlotte sat in Eleanor's private study. The fire had burned down to embers. Outside, the storm had passed. Stars were beginning to appear through the breaking clouds. The sound of the ocean was a constant rhythm in the distance. Charlotte held a cup of tea. This one was still warm. Someone had replaced the cold one without her noticing. Eleanor sat across from her, patient, silent, waiting for Charlotte to be ready. Finally, Charlotte spoke. "He knew." Eleanor's eyebrow rose slightly. "Knew what?" "Who I am, who we are. He knew from the beginning." "What makes you say that?" "The way he looked when Theodore told him my name. He was not confused. He was not surprised." Charlotte set down her tea. Her hands were steadier now. "He was scared because he realized his plan had failed." Eleanor was quiet for a moment, processing. "Theodore's investigators are looking into it. We will know for certain soon." "It does not matter anymore. Even if he did not know at first, he knows now, and he still threw me out. Charlotte laughed. The sound was bitter, hollow. That is almost worse, is it not? He found out I am wealthy beyond his wildest dreams, and he still wanted me gone. What does that say about me? It says nothing about you. It says everything about him. Does it? Or does it say that I am so fundamentally unlovable that not even billions of dollars could make him stay? Eleanor leaned forward. Her eyes were sharp. Listen to me very carefully, Charlotte Elizabeth Ashford. You are not unlovable. You have never been unlovable. That man is a predator, a parasite. He targeted you specifically because you are kind and trusting and hopeful. He exploited your best qualities. That is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of his depravity. Charlotte wanted to believe her. She really did. I gave him 8 years, she whispered. I gave him everything I had. I hid who I was. I pushed away my family. I became someone smaller, someone lesser, just so he would love me. Her voice broke. And he never loved me at all. Not for one single day. Then he is a fool. Eleanor's voice was fierce. And fools always pay for their foolishness. He will pay, Charlotte. I promise you that. How? He has the house. He has the money. He has Vanessa. He has everything he wanted. Eleanor smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a woman who had built an empire and destroyed enemies and survived everything life had thrown at her. He thinks he has everything. He thinks he won. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the dark ocean. He has no idea what is coming. What is coming? The full weight of the Ashford family. Our lawyers, our investigators, our connections, our resources. Eleanor turned back to face Charlotte. He made one crucial mistake, you see. He assumed you were alone, vulnerable, powerless. He assumed that because you hid your wealth, you did not have any. I let him believe that. Yes, and now he will learn the truth. Eleanor returned to her seat. Henry Callahan is flying in tonight. He will be here by morning. He is the best family attorney in the country. By the time he is done with Derek Weston, that man will not have a penny left to his name. I do not want his money, grandmother. I just want... This is not about money, Charlotte. This is about consequences. This is about making sure he can never do this to anyone else, ever. Eleanor's voice was hard. He threw you into the snow on Christmas Eve, 8 months pregnant. He tried to leave you with nothing. He tried to destroy you. But he did not. No, he did not. Because you called me. Because you asked for help. Because despite everything he did to isolate you, you still had the strength to reach out. Eleanor took Charlotte's hands. And now we are going to show him exactly what happens when you declare war on the Ashford family. Charlotte looked at her grandmother, this woman who had raised her after her father died. This woman who had built a fortune from the ashes of her husband's death. This woman who had never let anything defeat her. I am tired, Charlotte admitted. I am so tired of fighting. Then rest tonight, rest tomorrow. Rest for as long as you need. Eleanor squeezed her hands. The fight will be there when you are ready. We will all be here when you are ready. She helped Charlotte upstairs to her old bedroom. The room had not changed since she was 18. Ballet trophies lined one shelf. Horse show ribbons decorated another. A photo of her father sat on the nightstand. Eleanor pulled back the covers, waited while Charlotte climbed into bed, tucked the blankets around her like she used to do when Charlotte was a child. I love you, Charlotte. The words were simple, direct, rare from Eleanor's lips. And I am proud of you. Proud of me? For being fooled? For surviving? For protecting your baby? For walking out of that house with your dignity intact? Eleanor kissed her forehead. For being strong enough to ask for help when you needed it most. She turned off the lights, closed the door softly. Charlotte lay in the darkness. The familiar shadows of her childhood room surrounded her. The sound of the ocean was a distant lullaby. She put her hand on her belly. The baby moved. A slow roll, a gentle reminder. We made it, Charlotte whispered. We are safe now. The baby kicked. Once. Twice. Charlotte closed her eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new revelations, new battles. But tonight, she was home. She was safe. She was not alone. For now, that was enough. Christmas morning dawned gray and cold. Charlotte woke to the sound of the ocean. For a moment, she did not remember where she was. The room was unfamiliar. The bed was not her own. Then it all came flooding back. Derek's face, his words, "Get out." The snow, the cold, the helicopter, Theodore, Eleanor, home. She lay there for a long time, just breathing, just existing. The baby moved inside her, a reassuring presence. Finally, she got up. Someone had left clothes for her, soft maternity pants, a cashmere sweater, warm socks, everything in her size, everything comfortable. She dressed slowly. Everything felt strange, like she was moving through water, like the world had shifted slightly and she had not caught up yet. When she went downstairs, she found a war room. The dining hall had been transformed. The long mahogany table that normally held elegant dinner parties was now covered with papers. Laptops glowed at every seat. People Charlotte did not recognize moved with purpose, speaking in low voices. Theodore stood at the head of the table. He was on the phone again, still in the same suit from last night. He probably had not slept at all. Eleanor sat in her usual chair. She looked perfectly composed. Fresh clothes, fresh makeup, as if this were just another ordinary morning. Henry Callahan was there too. Charlotte recognized him from family events. Silver-haired, distinguished. The kind of lawyer who wore $3,000 suits in won cases that everyone said were unwinnable. He stood when Charlotte entered. "Ms. Ashford," his voice was respectful, professional. "I am deeply sorry for what you have experienced. I want you to know that we will pursue every legal avenue available to ensure that Derek Weston faces the consequences of his actions." "Thank you, Henry." Charlotte's voice came out steadier than she expected. "What have you found? Please, sit down. This is going to take a while." Charlotte sat, and then the revelations began. Derek's fund had been bleeding money for 18 months. The forensic accountants had worked through the night. They had pulled records, traced transactions, followed money through a maze of shell companies and offshore accounts. "He has been hiding the losses through creative accounting," one of them explained. "A woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense voice, moving money between entities to make it look like the fund is profitable when it is actually hemorrhaging cash." "How much has he lost?" "Best estimate, $12 million over the past 2 years. The fund should have collapsed months ago, but he has been propping it up and with new investor money and personal loans." "Personal loans?" Charlotte frowned. "Derek does not have that kind of money." "No, he does not." Henry slid a folder across the table. "But his mother does." Charlotte opened the folder. Bank statements, wire transfers, large sums moving from Patricia Weston's accounts to Derek's fund. $3 million over the past 5 years, Henry said, all disguised as legitimate investments, all used to cover his losses and maintain the illusion of success. Charlotte thought about Patricia, Derek's mother, that syrupy voice, that fake smile. All those comments about how Charlotte should be grateful that Derek had chosen her. She knew, Charlotte said. His mother knew his fund was failing. She knew he was committing fraud, and she helped him anyway. "It gets worse," Theodore said. He had ended his phone call and joined them at the table. "Much worse." He placed another folder in front of Charlotte. "We investigated Derek's history before the fund, before you met him. What we found," Theodore's jaw tightened. "What we found explains a lot." Charlotte opened the folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, legal documents, police reports. 10 years ago, Derek had worked at a hedge fund in Boston. The fund had collapsed spectacularly, wiping out 2 major investors and destroying the life savings of a dozen smaller ones. Derek had been at the center of it, not officially blamed, not criminally charged. But the pattern was there, the same creative accounting, the same shell companies, the same maze of financial tricks. "He did this before," Charlotte said. "He destroyed people before." "Yes, and the investor who lost the most? A man named Robert Chen. He filed a lawsuit claiming fraud. The case was going to trial." "What happened?" Theodore's expression was grim. "The case was settled out of court, confidentially. The payment came from an unknown source." "Patricia," Charlotte guessed. "We cannot prove it, but the timing matches." Charlotte looked at the file. Robert Chen's information, his business, his family. Where is he now? Maybe he would be willing to talk. The silence that followed told her everything. He died, Theodore said finally, 3 years after losing everything. The coroner ruled it suicide. Charlotte closed her eyes. A man was dead. Derek had destroyed him and walked away with horrific consequences. Had gone on to start a new fund. Had gone on to find a new victim. Had found her. There is more, Henry said. His voice was careful. We found evidence of other women. Charlotte opened her eyes. Other affairs? Not just affairs. We found a woman named Catherine Mills. She worked with Derek at the Boston Fund. 10 years ago, she filed harassment charges against him. Sexual harassment? Yes, she claimed he pressured her for months. That when she refused him, he retaliated, spread rumors, sabotaged her work, made her life unbearable. What happened to the charges? She withdrew them, suddenly, without explanation. Henry paused, and shortly after, a payment of $50,000 appeared in her bank account. Source unclear. Patricia again. We believe so. Charlotte stared at the documents spread across the table. The evidence of Derek's crimes, his patterns, his victims. She had not been his first target. She would not have been his last. There is one more thing, Theodore said. He looked like he did not want to say it. One more piece of evidence. He placed a document in front of her. Charlotte looked at it. An insurance policy. Her name was on it. $2 million. He took out a life insurance policy on you 6 months ago, Henry said, without your knowledge, named himself as sole beneficiary. The words did not make sense at first. Charlotte read them again, still did not understand. A life insurance policy? But I am healthy. You are 8 months pregnant, Eleanor said. Her voice was ice. With a complicated pregnancy, high risk because of your age and the stress you have been under. He was betting on something going wrong, Theodore said. Something going wrong during the birth. Something that would leave him a widower with $2 million and no witnesses. Charlotte's hand went to her belly. The baby kicked. He was hoping I would die, she whispered. The room was silent. We cannot prove intent, Henry said carefully. Taking out life insurance on a spouse is not illegal. But combined with everything else, the fraud, the harassment, the pattern of behavior, it paints a picture. What picture? A predator, Eleanor said. Her voice was hard. A man who targets vulnerable women, exploits them, and discards them when they are no longer useful. A man who will do anything to protect himself. A man who might even kill to get what he wants. Charlotte sat with that for a long moment. The man she had married, the man she had loved, the man whose child she carried. Had he ever intended to let her survive? The pregnancy, she said slowly. He pushed for the pregnancy. He was the one who wanted to try for a baby. I thought it meant he was committed, that he wanted to build a family. We checked his search history, the investigator said. A young man in the corner. Charlotte had barely noticed him until now. For the 6 months before you conceived, he was researching things like complications in late pregnancy, risk factors for maternal mortality, how to get custody of a child if mother dies. Charlotte felt the bile rise in her throat. She forced it back down. He planned this, all of it, from the very beginning. It appears so. He got me pregnant on purpose, to trap me, to create dependency, and then, her voice broke, and then to have me die giving birth so he could take everything. We believe that was the plan, yes. Charlotte stood up. She needed to move, needed to process. She walked to the window and looked out at the gray ocean. Her reflection stared back at her, pale, exhausted. But there was something else in her eyes now, something that had not been there before. Anger, real burning anger. I want everything, she said. Her voice was different, harder, colder. I want his fund destroyed. I want his reputation ruined. I want every person who ever invested with him to know what kind of man he is. I want his mother exposed for enabling him. I want every woman he ever hurt to have the chance to tell her story. She turned to face the room. And I want him to know it was me. I want him to know that the woman he threw into the snow on Christmas Eve is the one who destroyed him. Eleanor smiled. It was not a warm smile. There is my girl. I was wondering when she would appear. Theodore nodded. We will need to be strategic, careful. He has resources, lawyers, his mother's money. His mother's money is going to run out very quickly, Henry said. Between the fraud investigation we are about to trigger and the civil suits we will file, the Weston fortune will be dust within a year. A year is too long, Charlotte said. I want it done faster. These things take time, Charlotte. The legal system moves slowly. Then we work outside the legal system too. Charlotte walked back to the table, looked at the evidence spread across it. We leak his fraud to the financial press. We let his investors know what he has been doing with their money. We contact Catherine Mills and Robert Chen's family and anyone else he has ever hurt. That could complicate the legal proceedings. I do not care. I want him destroyed. Quickly, completely. Charlotte met Henry's eyes. Can you do that? Henry was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Yes, we can do that. Good. Charlotte sat back down. Let us begin. The next few hours were a blur of strategy and planning. Henry outlined the legal approach. Divorce filings, fraud complaints, civil suits, each step designed to strip Derek of money, power, and options. Theodore coordinated with the investigators. More evidence was needed, more witnesses, more ammunition for the war to come. Eleanor watched over it all, offering advice, asking questions, making decisions with the calm authority of a woman who had done this many times before. Charlotte listened, learned, asked questions of her own. But as the morning wore on, she felt something shifting inside her, something beyond the anger, something deeper. Around noon, she excused herself, said she needed to rest. The baby was kicking constantly as if responding to the tension in the room. But she did not go to her bedroom. Instead, she went to the family archive. The archive was in the basement of the main house, a large room lined with shelves, filing cabinets, storage boxes, 5 generations of Ashford history carefully preserved. Charlotte walked along the shelves, running her fingers over the spines of old ledgers, pausing to look at photographs in antique frames. Her great-grandfather, the original Theodore Ashford, a railroad baron, a ruthless businessman, a man who had built an empire from nothing. Her grandfather, James Ashford Sr., a quiet man, a scholar, the one who had diversified the family's holdings into real estate and finance. Her father, James Ashford Jr., her father, who had died when she was 12, who had left a hole in her life that she had been trying to fill ever since. She stopped in front of his photograph. He was young in this picture, maybe 30, smiling, happy. He had Charlotte's eyes, or rather, she had his. I tried to find what you had, she whispered to the photograph. You and Mom. Real love. True partnership. I thought I found it. Silence. The basement was quiet as a tomb, but I found a monster instead. She touched the glass, traced her father's face. What would you think of me now, standing here, pregnant, abandoned, planning revenge against a man I once loved? No answer came, but Charlotte thought she knew what her father would say. He would say he was proud of her, for surviving, for protecting her child, for fighting back. He would say that love was worth the risk, that getting hurt did not mean she was wrong to try. And he would say that it was okay to be angry, to want justice, to demand consequences. I am going to destroy him, Dad, Charlotte said. Not for revenge, for justice, for all the people he hurt, for all the people he would have hurt if someone did not stop him. She turned away from the photograph. Behind her, she heard footsteps on the basement stairs. Light, careful. Eleanor appeared at the bottom of the stairs. She looked at Charlotte, at the photograph, at the tears on Charlotte's cheeks. She did not say anything. She just walked over and stood beside her granddaughter. They looked at the photograph together. He would be proud of you, Eleanor said finally. Your father, he would be so proud. Would he? For what? For making the biggest mistake of my life? For learning from it, for growing from it, for refusing to let it break you. Eleanor took Charlotte's hand. James always said you were the strongest of all of us, the one who would carry the family forward. I did not understand what he meant at the time. Now I do. I do not feel strong. So, strength is not about feeling powerful. It is about acting despite feeling powerless. Eleanor squeezed her hand. You walked out of that house last night with your head held high. That took more strength than you know. Charlotte wiped her eyes with her free hand. Grandmother, can I ask you something? Anything. After grandfather died, how did you keep going? How did you build everything when you must have been so devastated? Eleanor was quiet for a longer moment. I had a choice, she said finally. I could let grief destroy me, or I could let it transform me. I chose transformation. She looked at Charlotte. You have the same choice now. Derek tried to destroy you. He failed. The question is, what will you become in the aftermath? Charlotte thought about that, about the woman she had been before Derek. Bright, hopeful, trusting, naive. That woman was gone. She had died in the snow on Christmas Eve, but someone new was emerging from the ashes. Someone harder, wiser, stronger. Someone who would never let anyone hurt her again. I do not know who I am going to become, Charlotte said, but I know who I will not be. I will not be a victim. I will not be broken. I will not be small. Eleanor smiled, a real smile this time. That is all I needed to hear. 3 days after Christmas, Charlotte met Catherine Mills. The meeting took place at a quiet restaurant in the city, private booths, discreet service, the kind of place where powerful people discussed sensitive matters. Catherine was in her early 40s now, blonde hair streaked with gray. She looked tired, wary, like a woman who had learned the hard way not to trust easily. Charlotte understood that feeling all too well. Thank you for meeting me, Charlotte said. I know this cannot be easy. Your grandmother is very persuasive. Catherine's smile was thin. And I saw the news about your situation. I figured you deserved to know what you married. I am starting to understand, but there are still gaps. I was hoping you could fill some of them. Catherine stirred her coffee, did not drink it. What do you want to know? Everything, whatever you are willing to tell me. Catherine was silent for a long moment. Her eyes were distant, lost in memories she had probably spent years trying to forget. I was 24 when I met Derek, she said finally, fresh out of business school, eager to prove myself. He was charming, attentive. He made me feel like I was the most important person in the room. That sounds familiar. It should. It is his pattern. He identifies vulnerable people, isolates them, makes them dependent on him. And then, Catherine's voice caught, and then he destroys them. What did he do to you? At first, just the charm offensive, compliments, attention. He made me feel special, made me feel like I was different from all the other women in the office. And then the pressure started. Dinner invitations that felt more like demands, late-night texts that crossed professional boundaries, comments about my appearance that were not quite appropriate, but not quite actionable. Charlotte thought about her own relationship with Derek, the way he had slowly increased his control, the way she had not noticed until it was too late. What happened when you said no? Catherine laughed bitterly. I was naive enough to think I could just reject him and move on. I said no to dinner. I said no to drinks. I said no to everything. And he did not take it well. That is an understatement. The retaliation was subtle at first, a bad performance review here, a missed promotion there. Then it escalated, rumors about my personal life, mistakes appearing in my work and I had not made, client relationships sabotaged. So you filed charges. I filed charges. I documented everything. I thought I had a solid case. Catherine's hands tightened around her coffee cup. I thought the truth would protect me. What happened? His mother happened. Patricia Weston showed up at my apartment one night. No warning. Just appeared at my door like something out of a nightmare. Charlotte thought about Patricia, that pleasant smile, that gentle voice, that steel underneath. What did she say? She said a lot of things, mostly threats dressed up as friendly advice. She told me that pursuing the case would destroy my career, that Derek had connections, that the truth did not matter as much as I thought it did. And you believed her? She showed me what she had. Private investigators had been following me for weeks. They had photos, recordings, information about my family, my friends. things that could be twisted and used against me. Catherine's voice was flat. She made it very clear that if I did not drop the charges, she would make sure I never worked again. And that was the best case scenario. Charlotte felt sick. This woman, this victim, threatened and silenced by Derek's own mother. So you took the money. $50,000. It seemed like a lot at the time, enough to start over somewhere else, enough to make the nightmare go away. But it did not go away. No, it never does. Catherine finally looked at Charlotte, really looked at her. I tried to forget, to move on, but some things you cannot forget. Some things stay with you forever. I understand. Do you really understand what it is like to be targeted by someone like Derek? To have your reality twisted until you do not know what is true anymore? To lose everything you thought you knew about yourself? Charlotte thought about the past 8 years, the slow erosion of her identity, the way she had become smaller and smaller to make room for Derek's ego. Yes, she said, I understand exactly. Catherine studied her for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression. The wariness faded slightly, replaced by something that looked almost like hope. You are different from me, from the others. What do you mean? You have resources, power, the Ashford name. Catherine leaned forward. You can actually hurt him and actually make him pay. That is the plan. Good. Catherine's voice was fierce now. Good. He has been getting away with this for too long, destroying people and walking away without consequences. Someone needs to stop him. I intend to. Then let me help you. Catherine reached into her purse, pulled out a flash drive, slid it across the table. I kept everything, every email, every text, every piece of evidence from 10 years ago. I thought I might need it someday. I thought, her voice broke. I thought maybe there would be a chance to make things right. Charlotte took the flash drive, held it in her hand. You could have destroyed this, could have moved on completely. I could have, but I knew he would do this again. I knew there would be other victims, and I thought, Catherine wiped her eyes. I thought maybe someday someone would be strong enough to stop him. Someone would need this evidence. Thank you, Catherine. This means more than you know. Just promise me one thing. Anything. When you destroy him, make sure everyone knows why. Make sure the world knows what kind of man he really is, not just for me, for everyone he has ever hurt, for everyone he would have hurt if you had not stopped him. Charlotte looked at the flash drive in her hand. Evidence, ammunition, truth. I promise. That night, Charlotte sat in her grandmother's study. The fire crackled, the ocean murmured in the distance. She was reading through the contents of Catherine's flash drive, emails that turned her stomach, text messages that made her skin crawl, documentation of a pattern that stretched back over a decade. Derek had done this before, many times, to many women, and he had gotten away with it every single time, until now. Eleanor sat across from her, reading her own set of documents, making notes in her elegant handwriting. Patricia Weston has been protecting him for years, Charlotte said, paying off victims, silencing witnesses, making problems disappear. That is the picture that is emerging, yes. Why? Why would a mother do that? Why would she enable her son to hurt so many people? Eleanor set down her pen, considered the question. Patricia Weston has one child. Her husband died when Derek was young. Everything she has, everything she is, had wrapped up in her son's success. Says so. Eleanor's voice was thoughtful. When you invest that much in someone, you cannot afford to see them clearly. You cannot afford to acknowledge their flaws. So she just pretends he is not a monster? She tells herself he is not. She tells herself the women are lying. She tells herself that her brilliant, charming son could never do the things they accuse him of. Eleanor shook her head. Denial is a powerful thing, Charlotte. People can convince themselves of almost anything if the alternative is too painful to accept. Charlotte thought about that, about the way she had convinced herself that Derek loved her, the way she had ignored the warning signs, the way she had rationalized his behavior. She was not so different from Patricia in some ways. They had both been fooled by the same man. But there was a crucial difference. When Charlotte finally saw the truth, she accepted it. She did not make excuses. She did not pretend. She faced the monster and walked away. Patricia was still pretending, still protecting, still enabling, and that made her complicit in everything Derek had done. "What are we going to do about her?" Charlotte asked. "About Patricia?" "Nothing directly. Her crimes are not actionable in any legal sense. She has been careful." Eleanor picked up her pen again. "But her reputation is not immune. When Derek's fraud becomes public, her involvement in hiding his crimes will come out. The society circles she values so much will close their doors to her. The charities she supports will distance themselves. She will lose everything she cares about. Everything except Derek. Yes, she will still have Derek, and when he goes to prison, she will be the only one who visits him." Eleanor's smile was cold. "That is a kind of justice too in its way." Charlotte nodded slowly. "I never wanted this," she said. "Never wanted to be someone who destroys people. I just wanted to be happy, to have a family, to be loved." "I know." Eleanor's voice softened. "But sometimes life forces us to become things we never planned to be. The question is what we do with that transformation." "What do you mean?" "You could use this anger to destroy Derek and then let it consume you. Become bitter, hard, closed off to love forever." Eleanor leaned forward. "Or you could use this experience to become wiser, stronger, more discerning about who deserves your trust. You could let it make you better instead of bitter." Charlotte thought about that, about the person she wanted to be, about the mother she wanted to be for her daughter. "I want to be better," she said. "I want to come out of this stronger. But first, Derek Weston must face consequences." "Yes," Eleanor smiled. "Then we continue. Tomorrow, Henry files the divorce petition. The fraud complaints go to the SEC, the investors receive their warnings, and Derek's carefully constructed life begins to crumble." Charlotte looked out the window at the dark ocean. "It feels like we are playing chess," she said. "Except Derek does not know we have been moving pieces for days. That is exactly what we are doing, and Derek has no idea he has already lost." The call came on New Year's Day. Charlotte was in the nursery looking at the furniture Eleanor had ordered. A beautiful crib, a changing table, a rocking chair by the window where she could sit and watch the ocean while feeding her daughter. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her swipe the green button. "Hello? Charlotte, this is Vanessa Holt. Do not hang up." Charlotte's hand tightened on the phone. Vanessa, the mistress, the woman who had been wearing her robe, her grandmother's pearls. "Why would I talk to you?" "Because I have information. Information you need." Vanessa's voice was different than Charlotte remembered. Smaller, scared. "Derek is planning something big, and I think I am the only one who can stop him." Charlotte was silent for a moment, processing. "Why would you help me? You were sleeping with my husband. You helped him throw me out." "I know, and I am not going to pretend I was innocent." Vanessa took a shaky breath. "But I did not know. About all of it. I did not know he was planning to take everything from you. I did not know about the life insurance. I did not know." Her voice broke. "I did not know I was just another pawn in his game." "You expected to be queen." "Yes, I expected him to leave you and marry me. He promised. He said—" Vanessa laughed bitterly. "He said a lot of things. None of them were true." Charlotte walked to the window, looked out at the gray winter sky. "What happened?" "He dropped me, the day after Christmas. As soon as he realized who you really were, who your family was, he came crawling back to me saying it was all a mistake, that he still loved you, that Vanessa meant nothing. He tried to come crawling back to me too. Of course he did. He is desperate now. His fund is collapsing. His investors are asking questions. His mother cannot bail him out anymore." Vanessa's voice hardened. "And he is looking for someone to blame. Let me guess. You. He is going to frame me for the fraud. He has been setting it up for months, putting my name on documents I never saw, making it look like I was the one who was stealing from investors." Charlotte processed this. Derek was covering his tracks, preparing a scapegoat. "Why should I care? Why should I help someone who helped destroy my marriage?" Because I have evidence, real evidence, the kind that could put Derek in prison, the kind that could destroy his mother's reputation, the kind that could end this once and for all. What kind of evidence? Recordings. Derek likes to brag when he is drunk. He likes to feel powerful, and Vanessa paused. I knew from the beginning that something was not right. So I recorded him. Everything he said about his plans, his schemes, his victims. Charlotte's heart began to beat faster. You recorded him confessing to fraud? I recorded him confessing to everything. The fraud, the women he had hurt, the way he planned to destroy you. Vanessa's voice dropped. And the life insurance policy. He talked about that a lot, about how convenient it would be if something happened to you during childbirth, how he would be free and rich and able to start over. Charlotte felt cold. He actually said that? On a recording? He did, and I have it, and I will give it to you, all of it, in exchange for protection. Protection from what? From him, from whatever he is planning, from the frame-up he is building. Vanessa sounded desperate now. I do not have your resources, Charlotte. I do not have your family. If Derek destroys me, I will have nothing. Charlotte thought about it. The woman who had slept with her husband. The woman who had worn her grandmother's pearls. The woman who had stood in Charlotte's home like she belonged there. She should hate Vanessa, should want to see her destroyed along with Derek. But hatred was a luxury Charlotte could not afford, not when the stakes were this high. Meet me tomorrow, Charlotte said, at my grandmother's estate. We will discuss terms. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will not let you down. Vanessa, Charlotte's voice was cold. If this is a trap, if you are playing some game for Derek, I will destroy you so completely that your own mother will not remember your name. Do you understand? Silence on the other end. I understand, Vanessa said finally. I will see you tomorrow. The call ended. Charlotte stood at the window for a long time, thinking about enemies, about alliances, about the strange twist that life could take. Then she went to find her grandmother. Vanessa arrived the next afternoon. She looked different from Christmas Eve. Smaller, older. The confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. Good. She should be afraid. Charlotte met her in the garden, the same garden where she had confronted Catherine Mill's truth. The same ocean roared in the distance. You said you have recordings. I do. Vanessa held out a flash drive. Everything is on here. Months of conversations. His plans, his schemes, his boasts about the people he destroyed. Charlotte did not take it. Not yet. Why did you record him? If you thought you were going to marry him, why keep evidence of his crimes? Vanessa was quiet for a moment. I am not stupid, she said finally. I know what kind of man Derek is. I knew it almost from the beginning. But I thought, she laughed bitterly, I thought I was different. I thought I was the one woman who could tame him, the one he would never hurt. But I was wrong. I was just another victim, another pawn, another disposable woman in Derek's long list of disposable women. Charlotte studied her. The fear in her eyes was real. The desperation was real. What exactly do you want in exchange for the recordings? $200,000 and your promise not to destroy my career. That is a lot of money. It is nothing compared to what Derek has cost me. Vanessa's voice cracked. I gave up everything for him. My puppy, my reputation, my self-respect. And now he is going to frame me for crimes I did not commit. This is the only leverage I have. Charlotte considered. $200,000 was nothing to the Ashford family, a rounding error in their investments. If the recordings were real, if they contained what Vanessa claimed, they were worth 100 times that. Play me something, Charlotte said. Something that proves you are telling the truth. Vanessa pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, held it up. Derek's voice filled the air. Stupid bitch has no idea what is coming. She thinks I actually love her? Please, she was just a means to an end. The Ashford money will set me up for life. But she is pregnant. What about the baby? The baby is insurance. If Charlotte dies in childbirth, and these things do happen, I get $2 million and a tragic widower story. If she survives, I take her to court, claim she is an unfit mother, take the kid and the money. You really thought of everything. That is what I do, baby. I think of everything. The recording ended. Charlotte felt the fury rising in her chest, hot and sharp. Derek's voice, Derek's words, his contempt for her, his plans to destroy her. When was this recorded? October, 2 months before he threw you out. And there is more, hours more. Everything he ever said about you, about his fraud, about the other women he hurt. Vanessa's voice was steady now. It is all yours, if you protect me. Charlotte made a decision. I will take your deal, 200,000, and I will not destroy your career, but I want one more thing. What? I want you to testify when the time comes, when we take Derek to court. I want you to stand up and tell the truth about what he did. To me, to you, to everyone. Vanessa hesitated. That is dangerous. He will come after me. He will try, but by then he will have no money, no power, and no credibility. And you will have the protection of the Ashford family. Vanessa stared at her for a long moment. You are not what I expected, she said finally. What did you expect? I expected you to hate me, to want me destroyed along with him. I do not have the luxury of hatred right now. Charlotte took the flash drive from Vanessa's hand. I have a daughter to protect, a future to build, and a monster to destroy. Hatred would only slow me down. Vanessa nodded slowly. Okay, I will testify when the time comes. Good. Charlotte turned to walk back to the house. My grandmother's attorneys will contact you with the details. In the meantime, stay away from Derek. Do not contact him. Do not respond if he contacts you. Disappear until we need you. Where am I supposed to go? Anywhere but here. The further from Derek, the better. Vanessa looked at the flash drive in Charlotte's hand, at the evidence that would destroy the man they had both loved. For what it is worth, she said quietly, I am sorry about everything. Charlotte paused, looked back at the younger woman. I know, but sorry does not change what happened. Only actions change things. And right now, the only action that matters is bringing Derek Weston to justice. She walked back to the house without looking back. That night, Charlotte sat with Theodore and listened to the recordings. Hour after hour of Derek's voice, boasting, scheming, confessing. By the time they were done, Charlotte felt sick, hollow, empty, but she also felt something else. Victory. This is everything we need, Theodore said. He confesses to fraud, to planning to steal from you, to hoping you would die in childbirth. Will it hold up in court? With the financial evidence we already have, absolutely. He is done, Charlotte. Finished. Charlotte looked at the frozen image on the screen. Derek's face, that charming smile, those empty eyes. Good, she said. Now let us end him. 1 week into January, the legal machinery was in motion. Divorce filings, fraud complaints, civil suits, each piece clicking into place like a well-designed trap. But Charlotte felt restless. There was still something missing. Some piece of the puzzle she could not quite grasp. I need to go back to the house, she told Theodore. The Connecticut house. There might be more evidence there. Theodore frowned. Too dangerous. What if Derek is there? He will not be. His lawyers have him staying at a hotel during the investigation. Still, let me send someone else. No, Charlotte's voice was firm. This is something I need to do myself. I need to face that house, that life, those memories. I need to close this chapter completely. Theodore studied her for a long moment. You are different, he said finally, than before. Different how? Stronger, more certain. He almost smiled. You remind me of grandmother. Is that a compliment? The highest one I can give. Eleanor approved the trip. Charlotte drove herself, the winding roads, the bare winter trees, the familiar landmarks. She reached the house as the sun was setting. It looked different in the fading light, smaller somehow, less imposing, just a house, just walls and windows and memories. The gate code still worked. Derek's arrogance again. He probably assumed she would never come back. Charlotte parked in the driveway, sat in the car for a moment, just looking at the house where she had spent 3 years of her life. The house where she had dreamed about the future, the house where everything had fallen apart. Then she got out and walked to the front door. The house was quiet, empty. Charlotte walked through the rooms slowly. The living room where they had hosted parties, the kitchen where she had cooked dinner every night, waiting for Derek to come home, the bedroom where they had conceived their daughter. Everything looked the same. Everything felt different. She was not the woman who had lived here. That woman was gone, had died in the snow on Christmas Eve. Charlotte climbed the stairs to the second floor, checked the offices, the guest rooms. Nothing useful. Derek had been thorough, had cleaned out anything incriminating, except Charlotte remembered something, a conversation from years ago. "What is in the attic?" she had asked Derek one lazy Sunday afternoon. "Nothing important, junk from the previous owners. I will clean it out someday." But he never had. The attic door had stayed locked. Derek had said he lost the key. Charlotte stood in the upstairs hallway, looking at that door. What had he been hiding up there? She found tools in the garage, a screwdriver, a hammer. 5 minutes later, the lock was broken. The stairs were narrow and dusty. Charlotte climbed them carefully, one hand on her belly. The attic was dark. She found a light switch. A single bulb flickered on. And Charlotte saw it, a metal box, hidden behind a loose wall panel, like something out of a movie. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. And as she broke the lock, as she opened the lid, inside were documents, photographs, a burner phone, and a folder with her name on it. Charlotte pulled out the folder, opened it. Her breath stopped. It was a timeline, handwritten in Derek's careful script, a detailed plan spanning years. Month 1, target identified, Charlotte Ashford, hiding her wealth, working at nonprofit, perfect victim. Month 2, establish contact, charity gala, make her feel special. Month 3, build trust, romance, isolation from family. Month 6, propose, quick wedding, small ceremony, keep Ashfords at distance. Year 1, financial control, put everything in my name. She trusts completely. Year 2, pregnancy, creates dependency, limits options. Year 3, exit strategy, time with market downturn, blame her, take child if possible. Alternative, if she discovers truth, use life insurance, complications in childbirth, tragic accident. Charlotte read the words again, and again, and again. Every moment of their relationship, every sweet word, every loving gesture, every promise, all of it planned, all of it calculated, all of it fake from the very first day. Derek had known who she was from the beginning, had targeted her specifically, had planned every step of their relationship like a military campaign. She had never been his wife. She had been his mark, his victim, his prey. The folder contained more: research on the Ashford family, financial estimates, maps of their holdings. He had been planning to take everything, not just from Charlotte, from her entire family. And at the bottom of the folder, one more document, a list of names, women's names, 7 of them, with dates next to each one. Charlotte recognized one name, Catherine Mills. The others were strangers, other victims, other targets. 7 women before Charlotte, 7 women Derek had used and discarded. She photographed everything, every document, every note, every damning piece of evidence. Then she sat down on the dusty attic floor and cried. She cried for a long time, for the woman she had been, for the future she had imagined, for the years she had wasted on a man who had never loved her. She cried for Catherine Mills, for the other women on Derek's list, for everyone who had been hurt by this predator. She cried for her daughter, who would grow up without a father, who would someday learn the truth about the man who had helped create her. And when she was done crying, she felt something new. Peace, not happiness. Not contentment, but a kind of peace. She knew the truth now, all of it. There were no more secrets, no more lies, no more questions. Derek was a monster. He had always been a monster. And nothing she had done, nothing she could have done, would have changed that. It was not her fault. It had never been her fault. Charlotte stood up, wiped her eyes, gathered the evidence. Then she walked out of the attic, out of the house, out of the life she had left behind. She did not look back. She drove home in silence. The winter night was dark and cold. Stars glittered above. The road stretched ahead like a ribbon of silver. Charlotte thought about the future, about her daughter, about the kind of mother she wanted to be. She would tell Caroline the truth someday, when she was old enough. She would explain that her father was a bad man who did bad things, but that she was loved, unconditionally and completely, by Charlotte, by the Ashfords, by everyone who mattered. She would teach Caroline to be strong, to trust her instincts, to walk away from people who did not deserve her love. She would not let Derek's legacy of destruction continue. Not through her, not through her daughter. The cycle ended here. February arrived with complications. Charlotte woke at 3 in the morning. Pain radiated through her abdomen. Sharp, sudden, terrifying. She called for help. Within minutes, Eleanor was at her door. A car was called. They rushed through the dark winter night to the hospital. Dr. Rebecca Sloan met them in the emergency room. Her face was calm, but her movements were quick, urgent. "What is happening?" Charlotte gasped. The pain was worse now, waves of it crashing over her. "Is the baby?" "We are checking. Try to stay calm. Breathe with me." Tests, monitors, waiting, more tests, more waiting. Charlotte lay in the hospital bed, watching the numbers on the monitors, listening to the steady beat of her daughter's heartbeat. Please, she thought, please be okay. Please be healthy. Please let this one thing go right. Finally, Der Sloan returned. "The baby is fine," she said. "Strong heartbeat, good movement. She is a fighter." Charlotte felt tears streaming down her face, relief so profound it was almost painful. "Bonende," the doctor continued, "your blood pressure is dangerously high. You are showing signs of preeclampsia. I want to keep you here for observation." "How long?" "Until I am sure you and the baby are stable. Could be days, could be longer." Charlotte looked at Eleanor. Her grandmother's face was tight with worry. "Do whatever you need to do," Eleanor said, "whatever it takes to keep them both safe." 3 days in the hospital, 3 days of monitors and tests and waiting, 3 days of lying in bed, watching the winter sky through the window, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. The stress was killing her. Charlotte knew it. The doctors knew it. The battle with Derek was taking its toll on her body, but she could not stop, could not rest, could not let go until justice was served. Could she? Maggie came to visit on the second day, brought flowers and terrible jokes and the kind of brutal honesty only a best friend could deliver. "You look like hell," Maggie said. "Thank you. That is exactly what every pregnant woman wants to hear." "You know what I mean. You are killing yourself with this, Charlie. The stress, the anger, the obsession with destroying Derek. He deserves to be destroyed." "Maybe, but does he deserve to destroy you in the process?" Maggie sat on the edge of the bed. "What good is justice if you are not alive to see it?" Charlotte was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know how to stop," she admitted. "I do not know how to let go. He tried to kill me, Maggie. He planned to let me die in childbirth so he could take everything." "I know, and that is horrifying. But Charlotte," Maggie took her hand, "you are safe now. You have an army of lawyers and investigators fighting for you. Your grandmother has more resources than most governments. You do not have to carry this alone. It does not feel like I can put it down. Because you are scared. Scared that if you stop fighting for one moment, he will win somehow, that he will escape, that he will hurt you again." Charlotte felt the tears starting. She tried to blink them back. Failed. "I have nightmares," she whispered. "Every night, I dream that he finds me, that he takes the baby, that everything I have built falls apart, and I am standing in the snow again, with nowhere to go." "Oh, Charlie," Maggie squeezed her hand. "Those are just dreams. They are not predictions. They are not reality. They feel real." "I know, but here is what is real. You are in a hospital bed with a team of doctors monitoring your every heartbeat. Your grandmother has security teams on every entrance. Your brother has investigators tracking Derek's every move. You are the most protected person in the entire state." Charlotte tried to absorb that. tried to let it sink in. Derek cannot hurt you anymore, Maggie continued. Not physically, not financially, not any way that matters. The only way he can hurt you now is if you let him live in your head rent-free. If you let the fear and the anger consume you. So what do I do? You let go, not of the justice that will happen with or without your constant attention, but of the obsession, the control, the need to personally oversee every detail. I do not know if I can. You can, you have to, for your daughter. Maggie's voice was fierce. What kind of mother do you want to be, Charlie? One who is so consumed by the past that she cannot be present for the future? Or one who has the strength to let go and move forward? Charlotte thought about that, about the mother she wanted to be, about the example she wanted to set. I want to be strong, she said, for Caroline. Then be strong enough to rest, to heal, to trust other people to handle things for a while. Maggie smiled. That is the hardest kind of strength there is. That night, Charlotte made a decision. She called Henry Callahan, told him to take over, completely. The divorce, the fraud complaints, the civil suits, all of it. But are you sure? Henry asked. I am sure. I need to focus on my health, on the baby. I trust you and my family to handle the rest. We will not let you down, Charlotte. Derek Weston will face justice. I promise you that. She hung up, lay back on the pillows. It felt strange. Letting go. She had been holding on so tightly for so long. But Maggie was right. The war would continue without her constant supervision. Henry and Theodore and Eleanor would fight while Charlotte rested, healed, prepared to meet her daughter. She put her hand on her belly. The baby kicked. A gentle reminder. I am going to be okay, Charlotte whispered. We are both going to be okay. For the first time in months, she believed it. A week later, Charlotte was discharged. Her blood pressure was stable. The baby was healthy. Dr. Sloan gave her strict instructions: rest, relaxation, no stress. Charlotte returned to the Ashford estate, to her childhood bedroom, to the view of the ocean. But she was different now. The obsession had faded. The anger had cooled to something more manageable. She still wanted justice, still wanted Derek to pay, but it no longer consumed her every waking moment. She had other things to think about now. A nursery to prepare, a name to choose, a future to imagine. Eleanor noticed the change. You seem calmer, she said one evening. They were sitting in the parlor, watching the sunset over the ocean. I feel calmer, lighter. Charlotte smiled, like I put down something heavy. The anger, the need to control everything, the belief that I had to personally oversee Derek's destruction. Charlotte shrugged. I realized I was hurting myself more than I was hurting him. That is a wise realization. It took almost dying to get there, but I got there. Eleanor was quiet for a moment, then, your father went through something similar. After his first business failure, he was obsessed with proving himself, worked 18-hour days, drove himself to exhaustion. What happened? He collapsed, ended up in the hospital for a week, and when he came out, he was different, calmer, more focused on what actually mattered, which was family, love, being present for the people who needed him. Eleanor smiled. He said the failure was the best thing that ever happened to him. It taught him what was truly important. Charlotte thought about that, about failure as a teacher, about loss as a gift. Do you think that is true, that Derek was somehow good for me? No, Eleanor's voice was firm. Derek was a monster who tried to destroy you. But your response to him, your strength, your resilience, your ability to survive and grow, that is all you. That has nothing to do with him. I do not feel strong. Strength is not about feeling powerful. It is about getting up every day and doing what needs to be done, even when it is hard, even when it hurts. Eleanor took her hand. You have done that, Charlotte. Every single day. That is strength. March brought justice. Charlotte was in her third trimester now, huge and uncomfortable and exhausted, but happy, genuinely happy for the first time in years. The news came in pieces, small victories accumulating into a complete collapse. First, the SEC investigation concluded. Derek was charged with securities fraud, 3 counts, each carrying significant prison time. Second, his investors filed a class action lawsuit, $12 million in losses. more charges pending. Third, the divorce was finalized. Charlotte was awarded everything she had brought to the marriage, plus damages for emotional distress and fraud. Derek was left with nothing but debt. Fourth, Patricia's role in covering up his crimes became public. She was dropped from 3 charity boards. Her social circle abandoned her. The family name she had protected so fiercely became toxic. Fifth, and most importantly, the recordings came out. Theodore had arranged for them to be leaked to the financial press. Derek's own voice, confessing to fraud, planning to steal from Charlotte, discussing how convenient it would be if she died in childbirth. The story went viral, not just in financial circles, but everywhere. The charming hedge fund manager who had married an heiress to steal her fortune. The predator who had preyed on vulnerable women for over a decade. The monster who had hoped his pregnant wife would die. Derek's face was everywhere, on news channels, in newspapers, on social media. No longer the handsome, successful businessman, but a villain. A cautionary tale, a monster exposed. He tried to fight back, hired lawyers, gave interviews, claimed he was the victim of a conspiracy. No one believed him, not his investors, not his friends, not the society circles he had cultivated so carefully, not even his own mother, who retreated to her house in shame and refused to speak to the press. By the end of March, Derek Weston was ruined, financially, professionally, personally, completely. Charlotte watched it happen from the comfort of the Ashford estate. She read the news reports with detachment, saw the photos of Derek leaving court. Surrounded by reporters, his face gray with fear, she felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pleasure, no triumph. Just a quiet recognition that justice had been served. One evening, Theodore came to her with news. Derek's lawyers have approached us. He wants to make a deal. Charlotte looked up from her book. What kind of deal? He will plead guilty to all charges, waive his parental rights, never contact you or Caroline again. In exchange, we drop the civil suits and stop the public campaign against him. Why would he do that? Because he is desperate. The criminal charges alone will put him in prison for years. But the civil suits, the investor lawsuits, could keep him in court for the rest of his life. And the public shame, Theodore shook his head. He cannot take it anymore. His lawyers say he is falling apart. Charlotte considered. Derek falling apart. The charming predator reduced to a desperate, broken man. She should feel satisfied. This was what she had wanted, what she had worked for. But she felt nothing. What do you think I should do? It is your decision. Grandmother says she will support whatever you choose. Theodore sat down across from her. But if you want my opinion, take the deal. End this. Move on with your life. It feels like he is getting away with something. He is going to prison, Charlotte. For years, he has lost everything. His money, his reputation, his freedom. And he will never be part of Caroline's life. Theodore leaned forward. What more do you want? What did she want? Charlotte thought about it for a long moment. She wanted Derek to suffer the way she had suffered. Wanted him to know the fear and despair he had felt standing in the snow on Christmas Eve. But that was revenge. And revenge would not heal her, would not help her move forward, would not make her a better mother to Caroline. Take the deal, she said finally. End it. Theodore nodded. I will tell the lawyers. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. Charlotte, you are making the right choice. I know it does not feel like it, but you are. She hoped he was right. The deal was signed a week later. Derek pled guilty, was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, signed away any rights to Caroline, agreed to never contact Charlotte or her family again. It was over, really, truly over. Charlotte sat in the nursery after she heard the news, looking at the crib, the changing table, the mobile with its dancing stars. In a few weeks, her daughter would sleep here, would wake up crying in the night, would take her first breath in this room. And Derek would never know her, would never hold her, would never hurt her. That was the only victory that mattered. The labor started on a Tuesday. Charlotte woke at 3 in the morning. Different from the false alarms before. This was real. She knew it with absolute certainty. Grandmother? She was already dialing the phone. It is time. 20 minutes later, they were at the hospital. Dr. Sloan was waiting. Maggie arrived shortly after, still in her scrubs from her own shift. The contractions came in waves, each one stronger than the last. Charlotte gripped Eleanor's hand and focused on breathing, on surviving, on meeting her daughter. "You are doing beautifully," Dr. Sloan said. "Just a little more." Hours passed. The pain was beyond anything Charlotte had imagined. But she had survived worse, had survived Derek, had survived Christmas Eve, had survived the past 3 months of fear and uncertainty. She could survive this. At 4:17 in the afternoon, Caroline James Ashford was born. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 10 fingers, 10 toes, a shock of dark hair. Perfect. Dr. Sloan placed her on Charlotte's chest, warm and wriggling and alive. Charlotte looked at her daughter, this tiny person she had carried for 9 months, this miracle she had protected through everything. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "I have been waiting for you." Carolyn's eyes opened, dark and unfocused, searching. They found Charlotte's face, and something shifted in the universe. This was love, real love. The kind Charlotte had been searching for her whole life. Not romantic love, not the false promises Derek had offered. Something deeper, something unconditional, something that would last forever. "I love you," Charlotte whispered. "I love you more than I have ever loved anything in my entire life." Carolyn made a small sound, almost like a response. Charlotte laughed through her tears. "Welcome to the world, little one. It is not perfect, but we are going to make it beautiful together." The first few weeks were a blur of feedings and diaper changes and sleepless nights. Charlotte had help. Eleanor insisted on hiring a night nurse, but she wanted to do as much as possible herself, wanted to be present for every moment of Caroline's life. She had missed so much of her own childhood. Her mother had died when she was young. Her father had worked constantly. She had been raised by nannies and housekeepers more than family. Caroline would have a different life. Charlotte would make sure of it. One night, about a month after the birth, Charlotte sat in the nursery rocking Caroline to sleep. The baby was fed and changed and peaceful. Her eyes were closing, fighting sleep the way babies do. Charlotte sang softly, a lullaby her father used to sing to her, words she had not forgotten, would never forget. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird." Carolyn's breathing slowed. Her tiny body relaxed against Charlotte's chest. "I'm going to tell you about your grandfather someday," Charlotte whispered. "About what a good man he was. About how much he would have loved you." The moon was rising outside the window, silver light on dark water. "And someday, when you are older, I will tell you about your father, about why he is not here, about the choices I made to protect you." Charlotte kissed her daughter's forehead. "You will understand, I think, when you are ready." Caroline slept, peaceful and safe and loved. Charlotte held her for a long time, just feeling the weight of her, the warmth of her, the miracle of her. This was what mattered. This moment, this child, this love. Everything else, Derek, the trial, the past, was just noise, background static in a life that had finally found its center. December, Christmas Eve, 1 year exactly since Derek threw her into the snow. Charlotte stood in her new home, a brownstone in the city, 4 stories of exposed brick and tall windows. Room for family, room for love, room to grow. She had bought it herself, chosen every detail, made it her own. Caroline toddled across the living room, 14 months old now, walking since Thanksgiving, getting into everything. "Mama," she squealed. "Mama, look!" Charlotte turned. Carolyn had found a Christmas ornament that had fallen from the tree, a silver star. "Beautiful, baby. Should we put it back?" Caroline nodded solemnly. Charlotte lifted her up. Together, they hung the star on a low branch. "Perfect," Charlotte said, "just like you." The doorbell rang at 5 o'clock, the first guests arriving. Eleanor came in first. Silver hair, perfect posture, a mountain of presents for her great-granddaughter. "Nana!" Caroline shrieked. Eleanor's title, chosen by Caroline herself. Eleanor scooped her up, kissed both cheeks. "Hello, my darling. Have you been good for your mother?" "No," Charlotte said from the doorway. "She has been a tiny tyrant. exactly like her great-grandmother. Eleanor laughed, a real laugh, the kind that had become more frequent this past year. Theodore came next, with his girlfriend Diana. They had gotten engaged last month. The wedding was planned for spring. "Charlie, you look amazing," Diana said. "Motherhood suits you. Sleep deprivation suits no one. But thank you for lying." Maggie arrived with wine and gossip. Dr. Sloan stopped by with cookies. Friends Charlotte had made over the past year. New connections, new community, a life rebuilt from the ashes. By 7 o'clock, the brownstone was full, full of laughter, full of warmth, full of love. Charlotte stood in the kitchen watching her family through the doorway. Carolyn was on Eleanor's lap being fed cookies despite Charlotte's protests. Theodore was arguing good-naturedly with Maggie about something trivial. Diana was helping Dr. Sloan arrange the cookie platter. 1 year ago, Charlotte had stood in the snow, lone, abandoned, terrified. Now she stood here, surrounded by people who loved her, mother to a beautiful daughter, finally herself again. Later that night, after everyone had gone, Charlotte stepped onto the balcony. Snow was falling, soft and quiet, just like last year. But everything else was different. She thought about Derek. He was still in prison, would be for another 2 years. Patricia had sold her house to pay his legal fees. Neither of them had tried to contact Charlotte. The restraining order was unnecessary but reassuring. She thought about the woman she had been, the one who had hidden her identity, who had shrunk herself to fit someone else's expectations, who had believed that love meant becoming less. That woman was gone now, transformed by fire and loss and resurrection. In her place was someone new, someone stronger, someone who knew her own worth. Charlotte Ashford, mother, survivor, force of nature. Maggie joined her on the balcony. "Penny, for your thoughts." Charlotte smiled. "Just thinking about last year." "What about it?" "I was standing in a different snowstorm, watching my life fall apart, thinking everything was over. And now?" Charlotte looked at her friend, her best friend, the one who had been there through everything. "Now I am watching my life come together, piece by piece, day by day, and I realized something." "What?" "That night when Derek threw me out, I thought he was destroying me. I thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen." Charlotte smiled. "But it was actually the best thing. It set me free. Free from him, free from myself, from the small, scared version of me who was willing to be treated badly just to be loved, from the woman who would have stayed with him forever if he had let her." Maggie nodded slowly. "So you are grateful for what he did?" "No, never grateful. He was a monster who tried to destroy me, but—" Charlotte paused, searching for the right words. "I am grateful for what I learned, for who I became, for the life I built after." That makes sense? Does it? It does. You took something terrible and turned it into something beautiful. That is not gratitude for the terrible thing. That is triumph over it. Charlotte laughed. "When did you get so wise?" "I have always been wise. You were just too busy being married to notice." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the snow fall. "Charlie, can I say something?" "Always. I am proud of you, not for surviving. Anyone can survive, but for thriving, for building this." Maggie gestured at the brownstone, at the life in Ortega, for becoming someone amazing. Charlotte felt the tears threatening. She blinked them back. "I had help, a lot of help. We all need help. The strength is in asking for it." Maggie squeezed her hand. "Merry Christmas, Charlie." "Merry Christmas, Mags." Later still, Charlotte put Caroline to bed. She sang the lullaby, the one from her father, the one that would become Caroline's too. Caroline's eyes closed, her breathing slowed. Peace settled over her tiny features. Charlotte stood there for a long moment, just watching, just loving. Then she whispered to her daughter, to the darkness, to herself, "You know what I finally understand, little one? I spent years trying to be small enough to be loved. I thought if I hid who I was, someone would see the real me. Someone would choose me for just being me." She touched Caroline's cheek, soft as silk. "But the people who really love you, they do not want you to be small. They want you to be big as you can possibly be. They do not want you to shrink." They want you to show up. Carolyn stirred, settled, dreamed. So that is what I am going to teach you, to take up space, to use your voice, to never apologize for being exactly who you are, to never make yourself less to make someone else comfortable. Charlotte smiled. Because you are my daughter. You are an Ashford, and Ashford women do not shrink for anyone. She went to the window, looked out at the snow. 1 year ago, she had been thrown away, discarded, left to freeze. 1 year later, she was here, whole, loved, free. The snow kept falling, soft and quiet, covering the city in white. Charlotte thought about the future, not with fear this time, with hope. There would be challenges ahead. There always were. Raising a child alone, building a career, maybe someday finding love again, real love, the kind that did not require her to disappear. But she would face those challenges as Charlotte Ashford, strong, certain, complete. She did not need Derek, did not need any man to make her whole. She was already whole. She had always been whole. It just took losing everything to realize it. The clock struck midnight, Christmas Day. Charlotte smiled. "Merry Christmas, little one," she whispered toward the nursery. "Merry Christmas." Then she went to bed. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new joys, new challenges. Charlotte Ashford was ready for all of them. And somewhere across the country, in a minimum security federal prison, Derek Weston was spending Christmas alone, in a cell, with nothing but his thoughts and his regrets and the ruins of the life he had destroyed. But Charlotte did not think about him anymore. She had better things to think about. She had a daughter to raise. She had a life to live. She had a future to build, and it was going to be beautiful. And that is how Charlotte Ashford took back her life. She walked into the snow with nothing. She walked out with everything. Not because of revenge, because of strength, because she finally saw her own worth. If this story touched your heart, if you felt Charlotte's pain and celebrated her victory, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button. Let me know this story mattered to you. Drop a comment below. Tell me your favorite moment. Was it when the helicopter landed? When Derek's face went white? Or when Charlotte finally held her daughter? Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who is going through their own storm. Someone who needs to know that the worst moment of your life can become the beginning of your best chapter. And if you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Because I have more stories like this one. Stories of women who refuse to break. Women who turn their pain into power. New stories drop every week. You do not want to miss the next one. Thank you for staying with me until the end. You are amazing. I will see you in the next story.